Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, race, sim and RC fans. Racing 393. Part 2 of my Hotshot 2 Blockhead Motors build. So just a recap on the previous video, which I will put a link in the description. I completed the, well, it's not been completed, but it's been built. So this is the rear gearbox. It's not fully done yet. There's a couple of things I've got to do on this, but the main thing was that the ball diff was installed. So that's currently in there, and it's meshed nicely. I've loosened off the slipper, the ball diff a little bit because it was a little bit tight. But yeah, lovely. So that misses out all the what I would call planet gears, the ones for the geared diff that would normally be on this kit. So just to clarify, those gears there, well, you don't use them in the kit if you're using a ball diff or a third party upgraded diff. As I kick the camera, I've got to watch my big feet. Right, anyway, so that's that. I've just got to put a couple of polyurethane bushes in the ends here, which I'll do, and then putting it together. So looking at that, putting it together with some screws. We've got a little bit of some mounting parts that go into in between the casing on kind of here. And it looks like there as well. So I'm going to get that done, and then it moves on to the motor. Now I'm not putting the Blockhead motor in there. I'm going to put another motor I'll have in there for now. It'll be a brushed motor for the time being. I have got a brushless motor, but I think that's going to be a later on project, if I'm honest. So anyway, let me get down as far as I go, get it together, and then I'll show you the motor. I haven't really thought about the motor yet, but I've got an idea the one I'm going to put in there. So yeah, let me get on with that. So the gearbox is together, went together. Okay, it is a bit fiddly, but it's together. It's all these slotted in, and the extra bits you've got to put on the spacers, making sure they're the correct way around. It's a bit of a pain taking it all apart, but that's done. Now the motor I'm going to put in, I don't know if it works. I've got it because I like it. It's got nothing to do with Tamiya, but we've got a brushed motor here. So this is a Team Orbital Mac mod machine modified Team Orion. So it's probably absolutely totally overkill for this. And I know the thing is, I've got loads of pinions, but for now I'm just going to put this in so it's not in the way. These are bad. These aluminium pinions are terrible, so I'm not planning on running it with this as such. But yeah, it's just so I can mesh it correctly and get it in, because you're quite limited. You've got the spur gear inside. You can't see it. The problem is with these, with the enclosed spur gears and pinions, they're not really designed for uprating either. Even the TT02 has a exposed, when you take the cover off, an exposed spur gear and lots of adjustment with it. So yeah, anyway, so that's going to be what I'm going to use. I haven't even tried it, so I'm going to put it in so it's not on the shelf. You can see that it needs, obviously that's for cooling, isn't it? But I don't know whether to put that on or not, because it's going to blank it off, isn't it? But it's going to be blanked off anyway. I guess it might be just to aid cooling or something, or I don't know, because it mounts straight to the plastic, and if it gets hot it could melt the plastic. I don't know, but anyway, it feels alright. I mean, it's got some turn on it. Anyway, that's what's going in. So I'm going to put that in the most awkward gear mesh situation that's ever in the history of man. The way that the Hotshot is done, it's diabolical. Right, let me crack on with that. So the rear gearbox is together and the motor's in. Not too. It seems a lot. It is fiddly. It's far fiddlier than it should be. but yeah, it's in. So I've put it in that way around. It fits really well. You've got to make sure you measure the pinion the right distance, 17 millimeters, so it meshes. But it all turns, you know, all good. Obviously this motor, I mean, I'll probably take it out again and get a harder pinion. It might go a couple of teeth up on it or something, but only one or two, not many. Can't really do a lot. Rear gearbox is all done. I'm just going to flick the page and tell you what's next, and we'll go from there. If I don't stop kicking this camera, I'm going to kick myself in the head. Right, what's next? So the next thing is the other gearbox. So you can put it, I don't know, should I put it that way around? Yeah, so the other bit now is the other gearbox, which means I've got to drill the gearbox out, and I've got to build the diff. So that's the front gearbox, so we've got to drill this out. You know, there's a bit of me that perhaps I'll leave it as a geared diff. Don't know, shall I? I've got the ball diff. There could be a spare ball diff for the rear if anything should happen, because I don't know if you can buy these anymore. And if I build this up as a normal front gearbox, a sort of geared diff, it's a bit freer. I'm just wondering if that would make, I don't know, maybe I'll do that. I'm just thinking now, because although it worked well, obviously, but I just, you know, I'm a little bit of a purist, as I put an Orion engine in a motor, but I don't know yet. I'll let you know. The next part now is gonna, I'm sort of thinking out loud, forgetting I'm filming. The next part's gonna be the front gearbox, which isn't as complicated as the rear. What do you think? Well, it doesn't matter, because by the time you see this, I'll have done it. We're not live. Okay, all right, leave that with me. Front gearbox is next. There's a method to my madness here. Been thinking that these geared Planet diffs, if you like, geared diffs, they're okay. They're not particularly very strong. You know, they could break, but they're actually very suitable for what they're intended to do under normal circumstances. Now, my thought process is, although it's not going to get used a lot, like to the point where it's all worn out, what I've decided to do is, obviously the ball diff is in the rear. I'm going to put a geared diff in the front. Two reasons. One is I then get a spare set of geared diffs, which I know they're not difficult to get hold of anyway. I've also then got a spare ball diff in case something goes wrong with the rear one. And also I did buy these. So the hop-up options, gearbox cups. They don't get used if I use the ball diff, but if I use the normal diff, the geared, I can use these instead of the kit ones. And these are a bit, I think they're a bit harder looking at them. They look exactly the same. But I'm hoping, I'll have a closer look at them, but at least I bought these so I can use these. So I'm going to build up the geared diff on the front. Probably put some thicker oil in it. I've actually got thicker than this, but this is 4,000 diff oil. Is it diff oil or it's silicone oil? I mean, you use it in the diffs or shocks, can't you? But I'll use that in the front geared diff, so it's a bit thicker. Yeah, so that's the plan. Okay, gearbox done at the front. Went together really well. Yeah, it's obviously standard as the kit is now, so really smooth. Just upgraded these cups here for the gearbox. Didn't think about it. I'm pretty sure you can get upgrades for these ones as well, the output shafts. But that's super smooth. It's got the high-speed ball bearings in there. Got some good diff oil. Went together super easy. So that's the front, that's the back. Kind of got those built, which is good. And the next stage is now going to be the uprights and drive shafts and bits and pieces like that. So I'll include that in this this part. This part 2 will probably go up to where the chassis and looking at the instructions, yeah, probably up to this part 2 will go up to step 15, which is installing the wishbones front and rear, gearboxes front and rear, and attaching those to the chassis, and that will conclude part 2. So, but bear with me while I crack on, and I'll once I start putting it together, I'll show you something else a little bit more interesting. Got all the bits ready now for the segment 8. So it's the rear suspension. So we've got like the uprights here. So we're going to fit those on with the standard plastic hubs, and after that point it will be the top wishbones and shock mount that goes onto what looks like the rear gearbox, and then we can fit this assembly to the car. So I'll show you when I've completed that. Right, during this process I'm able to install one of my other hop-ups, which are the spring steel shaft. Now they're also for the Tamiya Top Force, but as far as I'm aware, and I've been told, they'll fit the Hotshot. So that'll save me putting the cups on. So it'll be interesting just to make sure that these fit. Back end done. Upper and lower wishbones, hubs at the front, rear hubs, bearings, and the spring steel drive shaft upgrades. All fit absolutely perfect, lovely and free, as you expect. And I'll just show you there. There's the sort of the high tensile upgraded drive shafts. So a little tip that I do, but you know, I'm not the first and won't be the last to say this. I don't particularly like these hinge pins, if you like, because they screw into the plastic. They work, they do what they're supposed to do, but over time, when you've got something screwed in quite tight to plastic, this is where they can tend to split. It depends how long you're wanting to keep these cars. If you collect any or rebuild any vintage models, like the vintage Hotshot, the original 1985 or whenever it was made, the plastic splits here where it sort of comes in. So although they're greased, which you can probably see some of the grease just sort of overlapping there, what I tend to do is I do them up until it sort of squidges the grease out, so they're just tight, and then I just back these off about a quarter of a turn, maybe an eighth. There's no play, and they're not pushed hard against the plastic. So that's what I've always done that, but it seems that all the YouTube channels mention that, and I thought, well, I've always done that, but I thought I'd tell you in case it's not common knowledge, but it is. So that's what I do to my cars. So we've done the back. Yeah, like that. It's quite easy to go together. We're now going to work. I think we're working on the front, and then possibly mounting it to the chassis, which will end part 2. The front part of this is one of those sort of, it's not my favourite job, if I'm honest, but it is part of the first upgrade. Got some different, like the aluminium hubs, front hubs, and they come with like little spacers here. But on the original hub, the plastic one that comes with the kit, this top bit, the same as the bottom there, they are like little round posts. So I'm not sure how, because they're supposed to fit on there. I don't see how that's going to happen, if I'm honest. And these pillow balls, they do screw in. We'll see. It's just something I noticed. But anyway, we've got these, hopefully put them on, and we've got the front drive shafts, the high tensile steel ones. A spring steel for a Tamiya Top Force. or they'll be for the front as well. So I'm gonna go as far as I can with these. This is not my favourite job on the Hotshot, and if I get into any difficulties, I'll let you know. Right, so I've done one corner just to show you. It does go on. So they're the new like aluminium uprights. I got these plates as upgrades. They look exactly the same as what the others are, but I don't know what the hop up part is, but they look the same. I haven't taken the others out to compare. And it's been put together. It's just fiddly. Do you know what I mean? I've got a feeling. I've just noticed. I think I've put the bottom arm, the wrong one on. I'll take it off. Doesn't matter, but it's easy to do. But yeah, so I'm more interested. The hub does fit, so I'm going to build the other one up, correct this one, put the bearings in, fit it to the front gearbox, and I'm probably then going to call it a day in part 2 because it just takes a bit longer than you think. So I'm going to build the front up, show you the front and rear gearbox together, and then we'll move on from there for part 3. Right, there we go. So that's the conclusion of part 2. So the front assembly is all done. Went together really nicely. I'm never really a huge fan of the single shock, but yeah, I've got an odd feeling those shafts are too long for the front of the Hotshot. If you know that, then let me know. I might have to put the original drive shafts on, which I've still got them obviously, so, and the original sort of drive cups. No real big shakes, but that's the front. There's the back. So that's the back. I think the engine motor was a bit too far back, and that's the front. So they will pair together with the included drive shaft. Prop shaft. So that will go into there. That kind of goes in there. You kind of get the idea. So that's it for now. That's the end of part 2. Part 3 will probably conclude the build of the rolling chassis. I'll update you with any updates that I've got to do. I've got a feeling that I might have to change the front drive shafts, but we'll see. That's really enjoyable. I really enjoyed this car. This car is one of my favourites, so I hope you enjoyed it too, and I shall see you for part 3 very soon. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.